Hi guys, I wanted to do a quick screen capture, kind of like I did last week for you guys for your two activities, your writing activities for this week. You guys did amazing with chapter 4, and so we are moving on now and tackling chapter 5. So chapter 5 works a lot, the chapter is set up a lot like last week, and so it's going to give you a lot of tips about how to make your writing better. It's going to talk about like getting rid of a lot of flab in your sentences. It's going to talk about getting rid of redundancies in your sentences. It's going to talk about the importance of writing an active voice and how important it is and how strong it is, but then how passive voice can help so much as well. And so if you have not watched the lecture, the pre-recorded lecture, I would do that because it's going to move. Some of the slides are going to give examples, and they're going to be these exact examples, just like last week, how the chapter 5 Canvas activity lined up with the PowerPoint. This is going to do that same thing. And so these first 3 sentences, you're going to move from active voice. You're going to focus on active voice. So right now they have them in passive voice. So if we didn't want to point out who did something wrong, or we don't want to emphasize who did something, we would go into active voice. So like if we're giving negative news, we would go into passive. And so now we want to flip that and we want to move to active. And so workers were asked to wear badges. We want to instead say Bank of America asked their workers. We want the subject actually performing the action. That would be active voice. And again, this is in the lecture. You can go back and watch that. So we're going to change those 3. On the next 2, we're going to flip it. We want to focus on passive. So instead of active voice now, we want to flip it to passive. If you're getting them confused, remember it's in the pre-recorded lecture, and it is also in the text in the chapter. And then the next 3 are about parallelism. So we don't want to say the young man went to the park and was running, jumping, and playing. That's parallel. We do want to say that, but we don't want to say he was running, jumping, and like to play. So feel how it's not parallel. They're not all 3 the same. We want them all 3 to be infinitives, or we want them all 3 to be adjectives. We want them all 3 to be adverbs. We want them all to match. And so you want to, for instance, on number 7, to be hired, an applicant must be reliable, creative, and we don't want to say show enthusiasm. We want to say enthusiastic. And so we want them to be nice and parallel. And then 9 and 10 are getting rid of what we call dangling or misplaced modifiers. For example, in number 9, it says, while interviewing applicants, questions. Well, the questions were interviewing applicants? Of course they weren't. It's almost comical. So we need to switch things around so that whatever is being modified is right next to what's modifying it. So while interviewing applicants, recruiters ask questions. All right, so that is the chapter 5 activity Canvas. And then the next one is 5.14. Now this one is a little different, so don't overwork it. And hopefully if you're watching this, you're way ahead of the game, because those that don't, it's going to make this a lot more difficult. But literally all you are trying to find are these faults that they've pointed out. And again, this is in the pre-recorded lecture, and it's in the chapter. But they're asking you to find 5 sentence fragments. See there, that hint? You should find 5 sentence fragments, 1 dangling modifier, 1 passive voice sentence, and 1 parallelism fault. So you can literally, on a Word document, say fragments and then list them, because they have these sentences numbered. And so like the very first fragment that you find is number 2, or one of the other online sellers such as Etsy, Amazon, and Bonanza. That is not a complete sentence. A complete sentence has to have a subject, has to have a verb, has to make sense. If it's not doing that, in this case it's not, then it's not a complete sentence, it's a fragment. So I could just literally put fragments, colon, and list number 2, comma, and any other fragments that I find. Do the same thing for dangling modifier, colon, and then put the number of the sentence as a dangling modifier, and do the same thing with passive voice, and then again with parallelism fault. If you have any trouble, of course you have your other 2 regular assignments, your grammar quiz that's in Canvas, and your Mind Tap assignment for the week. This week we're really focusing. We're on that 3x3 writing process. The first week, last week on chapter 4 was all about knowing your audience and pre-writing. Now we're into actually drafting, and so that's what this chapter is about. So take some time, watch that pre-recorded lecture. If you're having trouble with these activities, please let me know. Reach out, email me, text me, or call.